Hi, I'm Kelly Monaco. I'm currently unemployed, so I created this channel to earn some extra income. I'll be updating you with the latest news about the drama General Hospital.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel. We're shocked to receive news about actress Laura Wright, who plays Carly in GH. What makes this moment so compelling is not simply that Laura Wright has booked another project. Soap actors do that. They stretch, they experiment, they step sideways into film, streaming, theater, and then sometimes come roaring back stronger than before. What makes this different is the symbolism. A legendary face of General Hospital drifting into a project called Soapbox, a film that appears to look directly at the world of daytime drama with both affection and mockery, immediately feels larger than a cameo. It feels like a mirror being held up to an industry that survives on reinvention while feeding on fear. In that sense, Wright's involvement does not just sound like a fun side project. It feels like a challenge, a wink, and perhaps even a warning. It suggests an actress who is too seasoned, too restless, and too aware of her own power to stay still simply because the audience has grown comfortable. For performers who have lived inside a role for years, comfort can become its own prison. The applause is reliable, the emotional rhythms are familiar, the fan loyalty is deep, but the very stability that protects a career can also begin to suffocate it. That is why Wright stepping into something that openly plays with soap culture feels so significant. It suggests hunger rather than routine. It suggests an artist looking at the walls around her and asking whether they are home or simply a beautifully decorated cage. That question alone is enough to send anxiety racing through the imagination of General Hospital fans. Because in the language of daytime television, every off-screen move is interpreted through the lens of potential departure. Every guest role becomes a rumor. Every rumor becomes a crisis. Every crisis becomes a theory about who may be written out, who may be recast, who may be sacrificed, and which emotional center of the canvas may be about to collapse. Carly is not just another woman in Port Charles. She is one of the engines that keeps the city burning. Remove her, and the emotional climate changes instantly. The gravity between Jason, Sonny, Brennan, Jocelyn, Michael, and even the shadows of old enemies does not disappear, but it shifts. Alliances lose their anchor. Conflicts lose their heat. Scenes that once sparked with dangerous familiarity begin to feel strangely hollow. That is why even the possibility of Laura Wright looking beyond the boundaries of General Hospital creates such an outsized reaction. Fans are not only responding to an actress booking a cameo, they are responding to the nightmare of absence. And yet that fear is exactly what makes the idea so dramatically rich. Because the real emotional power of this moment lies in contradiction. And Laura Wright's move can be read as expansion, not escape. It can be viewed as proof of vitality rather than evidence of withdrawal. In fact, the more ambitious reading is the more unsettling one. What if she is not leaving because she is dissatisfied, but because she is energized? What if this is not the beginning of a farewell, but the beginning of a sharper, riskier phase in which she refuses to be limited by the institution that helped make her iconic? That possibility is actually more disruptive than a simple exit. A performer who is hungry becomes unpredictable. An unpredictable performer changes the energy of every role she touches. If Wright is entering a season of reinvention, then Carly herself may begin to feel the impact. Not because the scripts must directly reflect reality, but because fearless actors tend to drag their characters into more dangerous emotional territory. The challenge off-screen often produces volatility on-screen. The result is not disappearance. The result is combustion. Seen through that lens, the idea that Wright is somehow brushing against days of our lives by joining a project populated with familiar names from that world becomes symbolically delicious. It is not a literal network migration, not a formal crossover, not a betrayal of General Hospital, but it still carries the thrill of border crossing. Soap universes are fiercely loyal territories, each with its own emotional architecture, history, and fan identity. When a veteran associated with one legendary daytime institution begins orbiting a project populated by recognizable figures from another, it creates the sensation of walls weakening. For longtime viewers, that feels almost forbidden. It introduces the intoxicating idea that the stars of one tradition can drift into the mythology of another without ever changing channels. Wright, in this context, becomes something more than a cast member. She becomes a bridge between eras, brands, and styles of melodrama. That kind of symbolic movement matters, because soap audiences do not just watch stories, they watch legacy, they track lineage. They feel continuity in their bones. So when a performer like Wright appears to expand beyond the edges of GH, it does not register as a scheduling note. It registers as a tremor in the identity of daytime itself. There is also a deeper dramatic irony at work here. Soapbox reportedly focuses on a once glorious soap star navigating a world that no longer treats that kind of fame the same way. Wright entering that space as a cameo figure turns her into both participant and commentary. She is not merely acting in a project. She is stepping into an argument about relevance, endurance, vanity, reinvention, and the strange immortality of daytime performers. Soap actors live in a paradox. They become household faces without always receiving the cultural prestige afforded to stars in flashier corners of entertainment. They are required to deliver extraordinary emotional labor at relentless speed, often building decades of viewer intimacy while being underestimated by people outside the genre. A satire about that world cannot help but carry a sting. For Laura Wright to enter it willingly suggests confidence. It suggests she understands the absurdity, the glamour, the pain, and the resilience of the medium well enough to laugh at it without diminishing it. That alone is an act of artistic courage. But courage is rarely calm. It usually arrives wrapped in risk. That is where the emotional force of this story truly lies. If an actress at Wright's level is actively looking for new ways to test herself, then some part of her may already be resisting the safety that long-term television can offer. And once that resistance begins, it becomes difficult to ignore. The mind starts asking dangerous questions. What else does she want to do? How much longer can one role contain all the instincts of a performer who still wants surprise? How many times can the same emotional mechanics be repeated before even a beloved character begins to feel too familiar? None of these questions prove departure, but they all intensify the atmosphere around one. In soap terms, this is how panic begins, quietly. Not with a press release, but with a possibility. That possibility becomes even more electrifying when placed against Carly's current emotional territory. She is not in a season of peace. She is moving through a battlefield disguised as intimacy, caught between desire, strategy, loyalty, and the lingering emotional pull of men who represent entirely different versions of danger. Brennan offers one kind of future, one kind of gamble, one kind of emotional architecture. Valentine represents another, darker and more elusive, not merely as a man, but as an unresolved force in her psyche. When a character is already balancing on the edge of competing loyalties, any instability in the performer's off-screen status only heightens the drama in the viewer's mind. Suddenly, every scene feels loaded with prophecy. Every glance feels like a clue. Every reckless choice Carly makes begins to look like the opening movement of something irreversible. Fans stop watching only for plot and start watching for signs. Is the character being positioned for transformation, destruction, isolation, or escape? Is the actress being given stronger material because she is staying, or a blaze of emotional importance because a larger change is coming? The uncertainty itself becomes addictive. In a more imaginative and emotionally heightened reading, Wright's decision to accept a soapbox cameo becomes the off-screen echo of Carly's own inner conflict. Both woman and actress stand at thresholds. Both are pulled between stability and temptation. Both are confronting the seductive danger of stepping into something more complicated than what they already possess. Carly's problem has never been that she lacks intelligence. Her problem is that intelligence does not protect her from emotional appetite. She understands risk and still moves toward it. She sees instability and still believes she can manage it. She knows which men represent chaos and still finds herself emotionally magnetized by that chaos. In a parallel way, an established actress with nothing left to prove might still hunger for environments that challenge her, unsettle her, or expose a new side of her craft. That is not self-destruction. It is ambition refusing to become obedient. But ambition, whether romantic or professional, always carries collateral damage. This is why the fear surrounding General Hospital feels so potent. Carly is not simply a role. She is one of the show's emotional weather systems. When she is calm, the narrative breathes differently. When she is under siege, everyone around her is forced to react. A Carly in crisis reshapes the atmosphere of Port Charles. Sonny feels it, whether he admits it or not. Jason feels it, even when he tries to remain detached. Jocelyn absorbs it and weaponizes it. Brennan is changed by it. Valentine provokes it. Even characters at the edge of Carla's immediate orbit are eventually scorched by the fallout of her decisions. That is why speculation about Laura Wright cannot remain contained to her alone. It instantly expands into larger questions about story structure, emotional continuity, and narrative survival. If Carly were ever to leave, who would inherit that heat? Who could carry the same layered combination of steel, vulnerability, fury, instinct, and romantic recklessness? There are other strong women in Port Charles, but Carly occupies a specific emotional frequency. Replacing the role in the ecosystem would not be impossible, but it would be violent. And perhaps that is the most thrilling conclusion of all. Not that Laura Wright is necessarily going anywhere, but that her involvement in Soapbox has reminded everyone how irreplaceable she feels when the possibility is even whispered. Sometimes it takes a rumor of movement to expose the true weight of someone's presence. Sometimes the audience only measures how central a performer is when the fantasy of losing them enters the room. Wright's new project has done exactly that. It has forced viewers to confront the possibility that icons do not remain icons by standing still. They remain vital by evolving, by surprising, by refusing to become mere furniture inside beloved institutions. If that evolution creates anxiety, then good. Anxiety is proof that the connection matters. So, the real story here is not just that Laura Wright may pop up in a satirical film with soap veterans from beyond the GH orbit. The real story is that this move has cracked open a deeper emotional conversation about identity, ambition, legacy, and fear. It has made fans wonder whether an actress who has already conquered one corner of the genre is now daring to play with its reflection from the outside. It has raised the possibility that the woman who made Carly so unforgettable may be entering a new phase where comfort is no longer enough. And in true soap fashion, that possibility is both exhilarating and terrifying. Because the stronger Laura Wright becomes as an artist, the more impossible it is to imagine General Hospital without her. And the easier it becomes to believe that one day she may decide she owes herself something bigger than permanence. Until then, the tension remains delicious. Carly is still in Port Charles, still stirring danger, still making emotional disasters look irresistible. But now a new shadow hangs over everything. The knowledge that the woman behind her may be bold enough to step into any world she wants. And if she ever does decide to walk farther than a cameo, the shock will not be confined to one project or one fandom. It will tear through daytime television like a beautifully dressed catastrophe.
I'll be back at the General Hospital soon. We'll see each other again soon. Thank you for supporting my channel. Goodbye and see you again.